Hello friends! How many times have you found yourself with a photo so small that it is absolutely unusable? Or maybe you had a client demand that you use it anyway, resulting in a finished product that you just could not be proud of. Today I want to take a look at a tool in Photoshop that has absolutely changed the way that I work and aims to fix that very problem. And this is all thanks to one of my new favorite tools, the Super Zoom tool. Let's take a look. Now to start, we have our low quality photo here, which we can see is already at 100%. So traditionally we can't make this much larger without any quality loss. But even though this is a very small photo, it's still one of my favorites. This photo is from a time when there was a lot of uncertainty and turmoil in my life, and to cope with that, I would lay on a fallen tree by this creek and just listen to the water flow by for hours. It really helped me clear my head, and as a result, this place was very special to me. But all these years later, this is the only photo that I have left of it. And it's just this tiny, awful little cell phone photo. So as it stands, it couldn't be used for much. But let's take a look at how we could increase the quality of this photo. So to find our Super Zoom tool, let's go up to the top and select Filter, Neural Filters. And that will bring up our Neural Filters panel on the side. And what we're looking for is down here in the photography section, and under that we can see our Super Zoom tool. Now if you've never used this tool before, you may instead see this download button when you click on Super Zoom. If you see that download button, go ahead and click that. The download is super quick and you won't even need to restart Photoshop. This also comes direct from Adobe, so you don't have to worry about any third-party software. But since we have used the Super Zoom tool before, let's go ahead and toggle this on. And now you can see our options popped up. Now the first thing we'll see is that we have this checkbox over here that says Enhance Image Details. That is checked by default for us, which is great. Now below that we have another checkbox that says Remove JPG Artifacts. If you've ever seen an image that gets very defined square pixels around lines and hard edges of a photo, those are the JPG artifacts this selection is aiming to fix. So for now, let's go ahead and select that. Now today we'll leave the noise reduction and sharpen sliders alone. We can always take care of those later if we need to, but I find it often isn't necessary. There's also this option down here for Enhance Face Details. Now if there's a person in your photo, this can be important as we increase the quality. But for today, we're okay with just these basic selections. Now one last thing that can be a little bit tricky for people is if we were to hit OK right now, we would actually see no results. And you would be a little bit disappointed in what you got back. Our image wouldn't get any larger because we didn't actually zoom in on our photo. And the way we do that is with this magnifying glass up here. Now, when I initially used this tool, I thought that this was just controlling the preview window, but it's actually the way that we zoom in on our image and increase the quality. So we'll start by hitting the plus magnifying glass, and now we can see that our image zoom is at 2x. That means we've literally doubled the size of our original image. Now, the more times we click on this, the lower quality the end result will be, because it's having to try and invent that image data. So usually I stick with just 2 times magnification, but in our case, let's go ahead and hit it one more time and bring that up to triple the image size. Now, the last thing I want to take a look at is this section down here called Output. Now, sometimes you might see that by default, it's selected on New Layer, and what that will do is it will keep our original pixel dimensions of our canvas, and it will just zoom into our photo. If I click on that, you can see it in the preview window. Now, I will tell you that this is never what I want, because what that does is it crops in on our photo when it zooms in. Instead, I exclusively use this tool to increase the total size of our image, not just crop in. The crop almost never gives me what I want. So to increase the total size of our image, we need to have that selected on New Document. That will create a brand new document with those increased dimensions. So let's go ahead and hit OK. All right, and that looks great. So now we can see that we are again at 100%, but now we can see just how much larger this image has gotten, making it much more usable. Now I will say it came out a little bit on the smooth side. It looks like it has this sort of Barbara Walters filter on it. So it isn't perfect, but it is much better than where we started and much better than if we had just used the image size function to resize our photo. So this is a great improvement. Going back to our original, we can see just how much of a change that was. We had a very small photo, and now we made one that is much larger. But now I want to show you a slightly different option that we can choose. So let's go back to our original, and once again, we'll go up to Filter, Neural Filters. Make sure if Neural Filters shows up at the very top that you actually use the third option down. If we select that one at the top, it will use exactly the same settings we had the first time. So let's click on that. And again, we'll go down to Super Zoom and toggle that on. But this time, we are going to leave Remove JPG Artifacts unchecked and see what that does. So again, we're going to hit the plus magnifying glass twice in order to bring that up to 3 times magnification. And again, down on input, we'll make sure new document is selected, and then we'll hit OK. And now we can see our result is very similar to before, but it doesn't have that unnatural smoothness that we were seeing. So let's go ahead and bring that version over to our other document. And now we can compare the two. So this first layer here is with that remove JPEG artifacts turned off, and our bottom layer is with it turned on. So you can see this one is much smoother. So again, that's with it turned off versus on. Now there are certain circumstances where you'll want one versus the other, but in our case, I would probably opt for having it turned off because that leaves more of the natural flow of the water, more of the detail in the shoreline and in the vegetation. The photo overall just looks much more realistic. But if you wanted your end result to be really smooth, then leaving that JPEG artifact removal on might be great for your image quality. You just have to make that decision for yourself in each situation and determine which is going to get you the result that you're looking for. Now, either way you do this process is going to be great for recovering old photos, especially in my case, these old cell phone photos. You can also use it for scans of old printed photos, or even just when you're working with web quality photos that you need to upscale. And I will tell you, this tool has become an invaluable part of my Photoshop arsenal. And now that you know about this tool, why don't you let me know down in the comments just how you plan to use it? Maybe restoring old family photos, or just making your work life a lot easier. But that's it for me today, so thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.